Okay, as I was saying, it was a complete disaster. In 1145, the territory broke up into taifas, into independent kingdoms again. Okay, here you have a graphic where you can see that what was going on in Christian Spain was actually quite similar. You have sort of different kingdoms that were similar to taifas. They're starting to unite a bit. And you have the Muslim taifas at the bottom, becoming less and less united and more vulnerable to the reconquest. Then you have another group of radical fundamentalist Muslims from north of Africa called the Almohads. They're there from 1172 to 1212, replacing the Almoravids as a controlling power. In 1171, they annex Al-Andalus into their empire. They claim it as theirs. And in 1195, they defeat Alfonso VIII of Castilla, imposing a strict religious code. So they said, no more drinking alcohol, no more being friends with Christians, your women have to wear veils, right? This is, again, like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda from the Middle Ages, okay? They're defeated in the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa in 1212, and this allows the Christians to penetrate the Guadalquivir River Valley, so it allows them to get into the heart of Andalusia there. The Almohads' territory disintegrates into taifas again in 1224, right? And this goes on like this until basically it is left as just the Nasrid Kingdom of Granada, right? Here's a good graphic where you can see the territory lost in 4 snapshots of the reconquest. And this last one is the Nasrid Kingdom of Granada, right? Where they managed to survive until 1492, so they survived for more than 2 centuries after all the other Muslims were gone. And they did this in 2 ways. One was by maintaining support from the Muslims of North Africa, so they didn't completely break ties. And the other was by paying tributes to the Christian kings of Castilla. So this is Boabdil eventually surrendering the keys to Granada, but until then, they're paying money, tributes, remember, are money recognizing that you are the subordinate of an occupying power. So saying, you Christians have won, we're not going to cause any trouble, here's some money, we're kind of part of your kingdom now. Okay, to quickly go over Society of Al-Andalus. This is important and will probably be on the test, so watch out. You've got 2 groups. You've got Muslims and non-Muslims. Within the Muslims, you have a hierarchy, okay? The top is the Arabs. It's a hierarchy by ethnic group. So these are all Muslims, all believe in Islam, all are equally religious or not religious. It's not relevant. What you have are Arabs at the top, who of course their ancestors came from the Arabian Peninsula. They're the minority, so there's less of them than anybody else, but they're the richest, the most powerful, the most important. Many of them own the land, right? They trace their heritage back maybe to the first caliph and the first emirate of Cordoba, right? Then you've got the Berbers. So this is the largest group. These are the people from North Africa, you remember? It's an ethnic group from North Africa. So the Almoravids, the Almohads, most of the people who live in the area of Morocco, for example, these are Berbers. So they're second. They're poor. They're mostly livestock farmers, right? They keep animals, sheep, goats, things like that. And then you've got the Muladis, or Spanish people, well, Spanish and Portuguese, I should really say, Iberian people, who converted to Islam, right? So these people are mostly peasants, and they really converted as a practical way to try to raise their position in society. As I mentioned earlier, it didn't work very well, and they were still considered the lowest of the Muslims, so they had some rebellions later on because they were very disappointed about this. They changed their religion to join, hopefully become more like the ruling power, much like you'll remember King Clovis did in the Franks, right? When he went from becoming pagan to becoming Christian because it was a good political move. These people were trying to do the same thing, but it did not work out well for them. Then below them, you've got non-Muslims. So you've got Spanish Christians. The ones who did not convert to Islam were called Mozarabs. So don't get confused. If they're Christian, they're Mozarab. And if they're Muslim, they're Muladi. They're both Spanish, or they're both Iberian, right? How can you remember it? Because a church can be Mozarab, but a church cannot be Muladi, right? A church can be a Mozarab-style church, so it kind of looks like a mosque, but it's a church because it's Christian. Okay, so if you see Mozarab, Christian, Muladi, Muslim, and they're both Spanish. And then below that, you've got Spanish Jews who typically worked in trade, craftwork, or finance, and they couldn't hold office or practice Judaism in public, right? But these 2 groups, you remember, were able to practice their religion freely as long as they paid a tax. All right, last bit. We've got some architecture to just see. You don't have to worry too much about the details of this. I just want you to see how the styles change and how we've seen some of the elements from the Islamic Empire and how they changed throughout the different periods of Al-Andalus. So you've got the Caliphal period, and this is known for using semicircular arch, horseshoe arch, polylobed arch, right? They had an alfiz, this little thing at the top here. The Caliphal ribbed vault, right, which we've seen quite a bit of. And the best example, which is super cool, is the Great Mosque of Cordoba. Right, here it is. We've seen a lot about it. We've seen it in the video. So that's the first period. Then you've got the Taifa period. And as I said, this are actually, this is a great period. It was super ornate because each Taifa is competing with the Taifas around it to try to be more beautiful, more splendid, and have honor that way and having beautiful architecture. So very ornate. So they use polylobed and mixed linear arches, right? They have these beautiful caliphal designs, right? The Ajaferia Palace in Zaragoza is from this period. And then the Almohad period, which this is more austere. So much like their religion was more austere, their art was more austere. So you have La Giralda and La Torre de Oro de Sevilla, super famous examples. And you can see they're a bit less decorative. They're more austere, sort of plain, right? And then the last one is the Nasrid period, right? So this is only going to be in the province of Granada, basically. Use a lot of ornate decoration like arabesque. And it's known for pointed horseshoe arches. See how it's a bit pointed at the top? Very cool. Stilted semicircular arches. So you have a semicircular arch on top of skinny columns, which look like stilts, right? Narrow columns and muqarna vaults. That's from inside the Alhambra. It's a famous muqarna vault. Okay. And the big example, of course, is the Alhambra Palace, which is also a fortress in Granada. That's it.